Hey everybody, this is Savannah, and this is my week 3 close reading installment for our Isaiah class. So I want to jump right in by getting started with the Old and New Testament parallels that are held in Isaiah 31. So just to kind of give an overview, and I'm going to go into the historical context, but Isaiah is talking about how the Israelites are trying to depend on the Egyptians and themselves for their own comfort rather than trusting in God. And the Old and New Testament parallels really well in this, and we'll see that in Exodus 16, 2 and 3. 2 and 3 says, "And the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the people of Israel said to them, Would that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the meat pots and ate bread in the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill the whole assembly with hunger." So in Exodus, they're wanting to be free, they're wanting to be out from under the yoke of slavery, and then they get free and are on their way to the promised land, and they start complaining that Israel was way better, that slavery was way better. And so you see that parallel in all of Isaiah 31. There's not even necessarily a certain scripture that I feel like exemplifies that, but the Isaiah 31:1 says, "Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help, who rely on horses, who trust in the multitude of their chariots and in the great strength of their horsemen, but do not look for the Holy One of Israel or seek help from the Lord." So they weren't, they were complaining to God. They weren't seeking help from Him. And so I see that in the Old Testament. But in the New Testament, Matthew 26, 14 through 16 says, "Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, 'What will you give me if I deliver him over to you?' And they paid him 30 pieces of silver, and from that moment he sought an opportunity to betray him." So Judas's decision to accept 30 pieces of silver to betray Jesus is paralleled in Isaiah 31, verse 5, when it says, "Like birds hovering overhead, the Lord Almighty will shield Jerusalem. He will shield it and deliver it. He will pass over it and rest." Oh, I'm reading the wrong verse. I'm sorry. It's paralleled in verse 7. It says, "For in that day, every one of you will reject the idols of silver and gold your sinful hands have made." So Isaiah is basically calling them out, saying that you're sinful because you've been idling things made of silver and gold, made by man's hands, but you really should be valuing what God is doing. The rest of that verse says, "Return, you Israelites, to the one you have so greatly revolted against. For in that day every one of you will reject the idols of silver and gold your sinful hands have made." So those are the Old and New Testament parallels.